When I was a kid, gravy, well, it came in a box and it had these two on the front of it. The Bisto kids. You see, I didn't know much about gravy other than it came in this box, and my nan and my mum would complain that you had to stir it constantly. As soon as you stopped stirring it, it would go solid and it was no good. And as far as I was concerned, that was what gravy was. And we got gravy granules, which are apparently a lot easier. And it's only some years after that that I realised that at some point, someone made gravy from scratch. There are foods that I grew up with that I'd never considered didn't come from some sort of packet or jar. Like bird's custard. We grew up with bird's custard. We grew up with Bisto gravy and then gravy granules. Spaghetti sauce. Now, if you try and serve me dolmio, you're having one. I only really realised that gravy wasn't a thing from a packet when Gordo did one of his restaurant. You know Gordo? You know Gordo. Chef. Very wrinkly. So many wrinkles he looks like a talking walnut. Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay did an episode of his Kitchen Nightmare show where he took over a pub and got the pub to trade on the fact that it was making gravy from scratch. And the slogan they used was bollocks to Bisto, which is a phrase that I've used since. So I started trying to make gravy from scratch over 10 years ago. So now I've got to the point where I can make a tip-top magoo gravy every Sunday with a roast. It hasn't got to be a special occasion at Christmas and Easter, a big family dinner. Easily done every week. No messing around with stock cubes, no having to buy a special stock or make your own stock for it. I use vegetable stock straight out the pan. It's really easy. In theory, I make enough gravy that it'll be me and the missus and whoever for dinner, and then plenty left over to freeze so that for midweek meals, I've always got gravy left over. In practice, this never happens because like there were the Bisto kids back in the day, I've got my own nieces and nephews. Whenever they're having a roast at their house, I get this.
Uncle Sam, can we have some gravy, please?
Can we have some gravy, please?
Uncle Sam, can we have some gravy, please?
Yeah, so I hear the feet come up the stairs in the flat, and there's normally a little face there asking, yeah, we're having a roast dinner. Can I have some gravy, Uncle Sam? So my frozen gravy, I very rarely ever get to have. Anywho, here's how I make it. So it's worth mentioning that your gravy will taste exactly like the veg you put in it. You can have the meat flavours, but also in mine I use a potato to add a little bit of thickness. I use flour as well, but potato, a lot of carrots, half a big onion, celery, 2 or 3 big cloves of garlic, and that gets the flavour balance I want. If you like it more oniony, put more onion in it. It's up to you. It changes as you want it to. But how I make it here, everyone's a big fan of, including Tank. Tank? Some gravy? Okay, eyes down, away we go. There's some potato going in to thicken it up, some celery. I'm going to put half a big onion in there, a few small cloves of garlic because I didn't have any big ones, and lots of carrots. Carrots make the gravy nice and sweet. Okay, I'm going to tip half a glass of water over the veg. Sometimes you add water going along it. You don't want the tray to dry out too much because it will burn and get bitter. There's the chicken. The chicken's oiled up and seasoned, and by the magic of television, it is cooked and done. The veg is ready underneath. Alright, I'm going to put some flour on it. It's on a low gas, getting a bit of a simmer going. Alright, so I've got it on a low heat and I'm working the gravy now. I'm working the flour in, I'm mushing the veg up, and all the little black bits that are stuck to the pan, which are sort of like meat juices that are sort of, you want to deglaze those. Use the liquid. I've got a little bit of carrot water in there, and I'm using the liquid to get off the bottom of the pan as it goes. By the time we're done, the pan should be, by the time the gravy's taken out of it, should be clean, because all of those black bits should be in the gravy, adding the flavour. There you go, I've got the spud masher on the case, giving the gravy a good mush up. And the contents of the pan at this point should look like a kind of a rough puree. Now I'm putting some carrot water in there. That's all the carrots strained into there. And again, I'm going to start working it around. It's on a low heat. Start combining it all together. Alright, I put it in a sieve. Now if I was just doing a little bit of gravy, you could put more veg water in there, wash it through and be done with the gravy that ends up in the pan. But because I want to make a fair bit, I'm going to force it through the sieve, which gives us a kind of a gravy base, and then I'll put more veg water in it to make it a nice gravy. I'm working it through the sieve there, and I'll go back and forth between a silicone spatula that pushes it through and a round-ended rolling pin, which I kind of can mush the veg straight through the sieve with. Here comes the rolling pin, there we go. The colour of your gravy depends how much char you get in the pan and on your veg. It's perfectly possible to make a really tasty gravy and have it be really light in colour, almost yellow, because it hasn't got any darkness in. Secret ingredient then, little drop of gravy browning. I mean, my gravy's quite brown there anyway, but people are used to it becoming from a packet and having that rich brown colour, so a little bit of gravy browning, only a little drop, stir that in, and it's got a nice rich colour. Right, I'm going to thin it out now. I've got some peas on the boil and I'm just going to put a little bit of that veg water in there, thin the gravy out, plus it's extra flavour. Would you look at that? Absolutely delicious. When your gravy's done, all you need to decide next is where you're going to put it on the plate. Stan?
Stan,
What?
where do you like your gravy?
All over.
Yep.
Suspend the sentence.